Right, so whilst we're waiting on some parts for the R36 build, I figured it'd be cool to check out its closest descendant, and that's the Arteon R Shooting Brake. These have been out for a few years now, and they're towards the end of their product life cycle, but thankfully Volkswagen UK still has an example on their press fleet, and they were also kind enough to let me borrow it for a week, so I figured why not just do a review video for you folks. Now, the Arteon is essentially a successor to the CC, which is basically a fancy Passat. It got first launched as a fastback and then got a shooting brake when the whole range was facelifted. That's basically in a state for those wondering. The R model was introduced alongside, but what made things a bit strange was its choice of powertrain. Volkswagen had decided to go with the exact 2-litre turbo out of a market Golf R, and they even left the power unchanged. I know from a 2024 perspective, this probably all seems normal as we have 2-litre C63s driving around, or maybe not driving around because they're sold none. But the Arteon R specifically did have quite an interesting development story, so let's just rewind a fair few years. So back in 2017, if you're a VW fanboy like me, you'll remember there was article after article stating that an R model was in development, but what stood out was this alleged engine. There wasn't no mention of an EA888, but instead it was going to be an all-new turbocharged 3-litre VR6. Yes, I know, the stuff of dreams. Basically a sleeker, modern-day Passat R36 reborn. Fantastic. All the great words you can use. And these were just rumours, by the way. VW actually flat out said that they had running prototypes with this engine, and it was producing over 400 horsepower, which was apparently good for pushing Panameras out the way on the Autobahn. Of course, as we now know, none of this ever really materialized because of the all-important E word, but what I found funny at the time was their additional justification for not doing it. In the early days, the VR6 prototype was said to be an extremely nice combination with the latest gen Haldex, and it made for a real agile, powerful car that would oversteer. But when they decided to cancel it, the VR6 was suddenly too heavy and would counteract the EA888 and torque splitter combo that they had developed. Look, I get it, that combo is brilliant in the market Golf R. I had one for around a year, but I doubt most potential owners of a VR6 Turbo Arteon would care about the slight lack of agility. In my opinion, this was purely a cost and emissions thing. Now, thankfully, if you are crazy enough, you could still potentially build this car in a way, as a 2.5-litre version of this Turbo VR6 does exist in the Chinese market. For some reason, they put it in the VW Terramont SUV and its MQB platform, so it should all fit. But I'm sure that comes with plenty of headaches. Maybe I'll try and experience those for myself in the future. Either way, that's the history behind this car, so let's check out the final product, and make sure you stay tuned for the drive where we discuss something that may make you forget the fact that it's missing 2 cylinders. Right, we'll do a quick walk around now of this particular car. As I said, it belongs to the guys at VW Press, so it's pretty cool to have access to a car like this for a week. It literally looks like a spaceship has landed in my backyard. I moved everything out of the way, but I've kept the trusty R32 in the background, so you can see a bit of the R theme going on, especially finished in lapis blue. It's an amazing looking thing, and of course we have got it in direct sunlight. I don't know if it's good for filming, but we can see all the fleck in the paint. We've got 20-inch Estoril wheels on this particular one, so they are the same design you get on a Golf R, but 1 inch bigger. They are square setup, and that's a 245/35/20. Behind that, you've got again the same brakes as a market Golf R, so that's 357mm discs. 2-pot caliper. On the back, we've got the 310 setup, pretty familiar. Got the panoramic sunroof as well, so this is standard. Got silver mirror caps. And move around the back, I think this is the best bit about it being a shooting brake, because you've got this very pronounced arch. It's something that's hard to tell in photos, but when you sit in the car, I'll show you shortly, you can actually see it in the side mirror, so it's very kind of supercar-esque when you're sitting very low. We've got these clear lens rear lights, which have a bit of a 3D effect going on. You can see the stacked little lights in there. But one of the more cooler things is that we actually have a proper set of back boxes, but they've got square tips, which I haven't seen on any other R product. They look like they're straight off a W205 C63, but I guess it is what it is. The little design features, we've got pillarless doors. That's the lowest the rear window goes to be expected. Just look at that. Nice and fancy. So we've got the button right there. We've also got electrically operated tow bar. But we haven't got a spare wheel in the boot, but there is definitely space for one. The provisions are there, so I'd probably chuck one in, especially when you've got a grand touring car like this. And the size is pretty good, it's better than what I'm used to, but there's a few downsides. One of those being this pretty large lip. That's probably more of a design thing, being that it's a shooting brake and not an estate or a van. Would have liked a button on either side to fold the seats down. Yes, I can reach it because I've got pretty long arms, but ideally they want you to go around the side. Bit of an oversight, especially considering the rest of the features this car comes with standard. That would have been very simple to do. It's not fully flat either, so that rear bench is basically like that, even though that's 20 years older. Right, so before we continue a tour of this spaceship, I just want to mention a couple of things. One, if you are enjoying this type of video, make sure you go down and click subscribe. And two, I'd just like to take a minute to thank today's video sponsor, Car Vertical. Now, if you're not really familiar with Car Vertical, it's essentially a website that allows you to obtain a full history check on any car. All you've got to do is enter your registration or the VIN, and it'll bring up everything that you want to know about it. I've been using it for years now when picking up a new project for the channel, and to give you an example of how it all works, we're going to take a look at this Polo. Now, at the top of these reports, you're essentially given a snapshot of the vehicle you searched for. So in the case of this Polo, it's a 2018 petrol, and we've got a green tick next to the odometer icon and also the financial legal status. This basically means that the mileage hasn't been rolled back, and we also haven't got any outstanding finance or any other legal commitments. But unfortunately, there is an exclamation marker next to the damage icon. So the records tell us that it's had 2 incidents, and it was marked down as an insurance write-off, more specifically a category S, which is structural damage. But to give us an idea of what exactly happened, we just need to head over to the photo section, and we can see pictures of it at a salvage auction. And as you can see, the passenger side front wheel is collapsed. Driver's side isn't too bad, it's just panel damage. A couple of airbags have gone off on the interior, but definitely repairable. And it seems that someone has actually gone ahead and taken on the task, because there's photos of it in 2021 looking a lot better for wear. But even if you didn't have this after and you're going to view a car that's been repaired, with this report you can just look for the various areas that it had the damage and make your judgments accordingly. So there you have it, that's Car Vertical, nice and easy to use. Now I have got my own special link as always, it's down below in the description. If you click on that and then use the code TRH, what they'll do is save you 20% off your next report. But yeah, big thanks to them as always for their continued support of the channel. Let's crack on with the video. Right, so I've just moved it into the shade so we can have a look at the dashboard and the remaining luxuries that this car comes with. But the first thing that comes to mind is that this is like a hybrid of 2 generations. So we've got a very B8 Passat like dashboard and the virtual display, but then we've got elements from the Mark 8 Golf R. So you got these seats and the steering wheel, which is pretty much identical. Now the cool thing with these seats is that they actually have a massage function, completely standard. This leather as well with the carbon effect is standard. They're heated. As far as I can tell, the passenger side doesn't have the massage function. Door card is very mid-range Volkswagen. I mean, they don't really go too crazy with soft touch leather over. It's more of the kind of harder. The best thing I could say is if you're used to, say, BMWs with their Dakota leather, it's very similar. This panel here is actually illuminated, so you can see a bit of the lights behind there in the night. It's pretty cool. Got the carbon effect leather there. I don't believe this car has the upgraded sound system. It should say HK there if it does. But yeah, our floor mats, again, those are just like the Mark 8. Trimmed armrest. Let's hop in. If I just put the ignition on there, you can see the wheel lights up. It's got the R button as you'd find in the Golf. There's a steering wheel heater. I spent a year in mine and I could probably count on my hand how many times I accidentally pressed anything. It's not as bad as people say, and other owners of Mark 8s will agree with me. But yeah, we've got the infotainment system from the 7.5 Gen Golf's touch panel for the climate control. It's okay, it's pretty intuitive. I haven't actually used this before. Heat seat controls there. It's got 3 settings. But yeah, how cool is it to see a physical DSG shifter? This is a remnants of the older platforms. But when it's alongside this wheel and this steering wheel, it's just, yeah, very odd indeed. All these buttons are Mark 7 style or B8 Passat. So you've got traction off, start, stop, the modes. So we've got DCC standard, comfort, sport, race, individual. There's no drift mode, even though this has the Magna rear diff, but I'll get into the technical stuff in a second. Seems someone's being chased. Virtual displays like the earlier design, so it's not like the Mark 8 one where you got a lot of configurability and you can have a center rev counter and whatnot. This one also has a head-up display option, but it's actually different to what you'd find in the newer cars as well. We've got a button here, so if you press that, it rises out of the dash. So not the most advanced of systems. The Mark 8 has it built in to the dashboard there. It's not really something that needs to be deployed. But yeah, it's pretty cool seeing it rise at the dash. I've not actually used a car with that style of head-up display before. You just press the button and it goes out the way. That screen, of course, is the optional one. You can get the smaller one with the dials on either side. But yeah, leather, carbon trim, panoramic sunroof, all of this is standard. Lovely powder shifters. Get the bonnet open. All of these plastics down here are very normal-esque. They're not really what you'd find on a 60-odd grand car, but we'll touch upon the price when I go for a drive because it's not as crazy as you'd think, especially in today's market. Right, so arguably the thing that lets this car down the most, and that's what's underneath this massive clamshell bonnet. I mean, just check this out. It's a bit of a thing. It has a strut there, it has another one back there, and this massive hinge. And look at this wing. It's a very odd shape. Feels like you're opening up the bonnet of an R8. And then you've got this whole estate form factor back there. Very cool. So yes, folks, behind all that glare, there is indeed an EA888 Gen 4 with the Continental Turbo. So this car makes 320 PS and 420 Newton meters, exactly like what you find in the Golf. Obviously, we've got more weight, so it's going to be interesting to see how it drives. There's one pretty big crucial difference, and not something that I knew up until a couple of months ago, and that's the fact that this actually comes with a DQ500. For those of you VW Group nerds, you'll know exactly what that means. That's the gearbox that comes in the RS3 and very few diesel cars like some Tiguan's and also the Transporters. But essentially, it's the strongest version of the DSG. I don't know why they opted to go with the DQ500 in this thing, because the 381 with the Mark 8R is actually very good to drive. They're both 7-speed. Obviously, you can't see much behind there, but that is indeed an RS3 gearbox, as we'll say. And of course, that drivetrain is supported by all-wheel drive. Now, this is your traditional kind of front bias setup because we've got a transverse engine, but this does have the later torque vectoring rear diff by Magna, so it's not Haldex like the older cars. And then in regards to the exhaust, one, I'm sure it's very long because of the length of this car. It has of course got OPS, but there's no Akrapovic option. But I did get a few sound clips of it yesterday once it was warm. So as you can see, it does sound pretty good for a 2-litre TSI. I get it, it's no VR6 turbo, but thankfully we've got no soft limiter and it's got a bit of overrun, and the launch sound still has that familiar kind of drilling noise. I still don't understand why this and the Golf don't have soft limiters, yet the S38Y, including the facelift, has one, because it's the same engine, the same emissions, and also the same group company. Maybe we'll get the answer to that one day, but I guess for now we'll just have to be in limbo. It reminds me of a Mark 8 Golf R so much. You can feel the Magna rear diff there. Let's get the windows there. The price topic, if I'm being honest, isn't actually as big of an issue as you might think. Everyone refers to the list price of these things. This particular car is well over £60,000 with the few options that it has, but that's actually irrelevant because if you go over to Auto Trader, these cars have been out since 2021, which granted is still a new car in my eyes. That was the reg that my Mark 8R was. They start from just under 30,000 and they start at 30k from an approved used garage. So whether or not it's got the EA888 Gen 4, which granted is a great engine in most cars, I think 30 to 35k, there's no real complaints to be had, because you're essentially paying Golf R money for a car that's way nicer than a Golf R. The style is unmatched. When you see this thing go down the road, I've legit had people stumble. Now some of you may be saying, hold on Hamza, I don't want a 21 plate car with 20 or 30,000 miles on it. I get you. So my response to that would be, I found an example that wasn't even registered, or even was a 24 plate with no miles on it, and it was 40,000 brand new. Yeah, there's no comparison if you ask me. So yeah, that's the price topic out the way. I thought I'd drill that home before we start talking about how it drives. And I can say in response to that, it's actually very good. It doesn't feel big or anything. The cool thing about these Arteon Rs, despite their size, they weigh below 1800 kilos. Now think about that. Nowadays you're in the era of M5s weighing 2.5 tons, and you're in the era of M2s weighing basically 1800, 1750. So this Arteon R Estate is the same weight as an M2, which is a bonus I guess, because you can have the cargo space and everything, the 4-wheel drive, all of this stuff, and a car that doesn't feel like a big boat, because believe me, it does not. I'll tell you, I spend most of my time driving hot hatches, and down here it's hard to really tell the difference. You fully forget about that massive sort of, I don't know, it's like a plane. See this come down the road. Yeah, you can lean on it. You don't feel the diff come into play as much as you do on the Golf, maybe because it's all the way back there, but you do feel the front kind of, yeah, they've got XDS still on these things on the front, the open diff with the electronics. You feel that clawing to get around. Or the roads close up. Let me just launch it, see how it gets away. launch control active. That's 60 as we have to slow down. But yeah, very uneventful. It gets it done. Yeah, the DQ500, let's get back to that. So it's 7-speed like I mentioned, but the Mark AR with its 381 is very perfectly tuned. I even found that when I compared that car to an RS38Y, the downshifts are immediate, like it's very, very responsive, even compared to the 381 in the 7.5. This still does have a bit of lag, like it doesn't feel as sharp. So it's strange, I don't know why, like I said, this has a DQ500, it doesn't really make much sense. But I'm glad it does, because say for example you bought one of these and you wanted to go the extra mile with power, you haven't got to bother about conversion or the gearbox falling apart, because believe me, these things can take some serious abuse. You've seen all the tuned RS3s out there, so I imagine the same can be applied to this. It's a sort of car that I could see someone putting a fair few miles on it, and once it's out of warranty, going like stage 1, something minor like that, have that 400 horsepower. But I'm glad it exists. That's something you've got to keep in mind. They could have easily just canned the whole project, I'm sure. I mean, what is the need for this car to exist? I'm not sure. A Passat R would have probably been less expensive to do, just dash the DA888 into the existing B8 Passat. But no, they made this svelte, interesting spaceship looking thing. But yeah, this is race mode's ride. It's perfect. I'm on 20-inch wheels. Can't notice anything on these back roads. See the agility with the steering wheel, I mean, the car responds to every movement, but you've got a nice long wheelbase. Go by the bridge. It's just air rushing. I don't mind it. But yeah folks, that's my opinion on the Arteon R Shooting Brake. Big thanks to VW Press team for allowing me to have a go in it. I'm glad to be finally on board with them. You guys who've been watching for years now will have known it's quite difficult, but we're here now and hopefully we get to try all the new stuff when everyone else or other channels try them. I love this thing.